welcome to another episode of Leaders Podcast. Leaders Podcast gives me the opportunity to speak to some of the most influential leaders in the intelligence and investigation industry worldwide. Today, however, I've got an interesting special guest. His name's Dada. He's the CEO of Uncloak. He has a relationship with Conflict International, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his background and a new product that he's launched into the marketplace. So welcome, Teo. Give us a brief introduction of who you are and just so we can hear a little bit about your story.
Hi, Mike. Absolute pleasure to be here. So my name's Dada. I'm the CEO of Uncloak. I have over 30 years in cybersecurity, believe it or not. And I started out in my teenage years on the other side, basically trying to break into networks and see how things work. And you know, I've always had an amazing, how can I say, it's very hard to describe, but interest in how things work and how things come together. So, naturally, I was doing a lot of that in my teenage years, and then I eventually started working for a number of consultancy firms, helping to establish one of the big four consultancy firms, ethical hacking department. And that was really interesting. Then from there, I went to work, done loads of work at World Cup 2022, which is great. So I was one of the leads there for cybersecurity. Had a fantastic time overseas. And then, whilst I've been working, literally, something that's always been on my mind is, it's okay for large corporates to have cybersecurity. They can afford it, and they've got the resource and the budget to be able to do it. Then, but what about the smaller businesses? And the smaller businesses make up 90% of all businesses in most countries. So, that's one of the reasons why I decided to create a platform called Uncloak.
Oh, fantastic! Let me rewind a little bit. You said in my teenage years you were on the other side. What does that mean?
So I was you can call a black hat. So that was unethical hacking. So you got ethical hacking where you're getting paid to break into a business to find out the vulnerabilities in the business's environment. Mm-hmm. But a black hat is someone who's breaking into a system without obviously any prior knowledge, any prior acknowledgement or approval. And so when I was in my teenage years, whilst I was skateboarding, a bunch of us who were all techies, you can call us nerds at the time. And, I think one of the things for us was to say, okay, right, almost to test our brain power by trying to break into systems that no one said they could break into. And so, we went after, quite a few large corporates trying to break into network, got into quite a few. Eventually got to a point in time where, I broke into one particular consultancy firm, and they said, if you don't work for us, we'll shop you to the police. And I was like, okay. And then from there, my responsibility was to provide penetration testing, which is ability to test a client's network to see if there's any vulnerabilities on behalf of this large consultancy firm. So I've done a lot of work for Lloyd's of London, basically looking for vulnerabilities. I worked for a number of banks, managed to break into a number of bank systems on behalf of the consultancy firm. And then I started doing a lot of work with police force as well. So I've done work with West Yorkshire Police Force in the UK, helping them out with a number of areas, and even got into like forensic accounting as well, where I had to work with a number of organizations where they had all these amazing pieces of hardware from a company that was getting bought out, but the person, the head of IT that was looking after this equipment didn't want to give the passwords away because there might be some information that was held in the systems, and it was my responsibility to break into all the systems to allow the accountancy firm to be able to get access to all these accounting records. So I was involved in that as well. So yeah, it's been a bit of a metered and a kind of colourful career, I would say.
Fantastic. How difficult is it to break into networks and access information?
It's funny enough, it's usually down to two things. One is ignorance and the other is pride. So you'll find with smaller businesses, it's usually ignorance because they don't know, and until they're broken into. I mean, the statistics say that 78% of businesses have been attacked. And another phrase says, most people have been attacked, but just don't know it, that they've actually been attacked already. Mm. So one thing you'll find from an ignorance perspective, it's a lot easier to break into a network if a company believes that they don't need something they don't need to worry about. But then on the other hand, you've got pride where people say, oh yeah, we're all big bag nerdy enough with all the controls in place. And they're also ones that you can break into as well, because, you know, sometimes what they don't realize is at the end of every business is a human being, and a human being unfortunately has mistakes in them, and there's always a way to exploit them. If it's not through the equipment, so for example, trying to break in through, you know, platforms and systems, you know, like you see on the, you know, you always see in these movies where someone's at the end of a terminal, you know, that's the hardest way to break into network. The easiest way to break into network is literally social engineering, pretending to ring up as an IT manager, speaking to a new member of staff who works in the IT department and say, hi, look, I'm head of IT. I need access to my password. I can't get in. Or the CEO needs his password. What is it? You know, and that's social engineering. So it's either manipulating the system or manipulating a person. But you know, it's I wouldn't say it's easy enough, but with the world that we live in, everyone's hyper connected now, from your fridge, your smart TV, your Alexa, you know, other brands are available. There's all types of devices that are connected to the internet in one way or another. So you just have to exploit the weakest link.
That's an interesting point. You're right. There is a lot more connections now, digitally as well as socially.
Yes.
So we move on. Thanks for that introduction. That's fantastic. And now that brings me on to Uncloak. So you developed a product, a service. Just explain in a short sort of paragraph what actually Uncloak is.
Yeah, no. So what uncloak is, you know, and from the word uncloak itself, and you know, it's not a common word, but uncloak means to unveil, to reveal. So the whole aim of uncloak is to reveal cybersecurity issues that a business may or organization may have. And because one reason why I developed it was because, you know, after spending a lot of time in consultancy, working with big four consultancies and firms, and you know, at public infrastructure level, one of the things I found is that the small businesses were not being taken care of properly. You know, they might have antivirus, but that's as far as it went. They might have a router in the office that allows them to get on the internet, and that's the level of security, and they believe that's strong enough. Unfortunately, what I found is that large corporates or large enterprises, businesses, 200-300 members of staff, they can afford to have members of staff in place looking after stuff. Looking after equipment and firewalls and servers and routers and all these, you know, all these words. They can afford that, but the smaller business can't. And it was like, hold on, the issue I found isn't just about software that's available, but you also need a technician to manage the software. And that was another challenge. So you might have the money to buy the software, but then you need someone who can manage it. And so it got to the point in time where I was like, okay, is there anything we can do to help these SME businesses, these businesses from one member of staff up to 250 members staff businesses, which, like I said, you know, they're the majority of businesses in most countries around the world. How can we help them? So the aim was to debunk cybersecurity and make it easy enough for IT companies, not even IT companies, but organizations to be able to take care of cybersecurity themselves. Because unfortunately, most companies do not even have a cybersecurity specialist. They may have an IT member of staff, or someone's posing as an IT member of staff to look after computers, but they definitely won't have someone who's dedicated to looking after cybersecurity. And this is where Uncloak comes in. We want to bridge the gap between where your antivirus stops and your, you know, external access starts, and people trying to get in from outside. This is where Uncloak sits. It sits within that area, below, above antivirus, and below a professional consultant coming in and helping you in your business. And so we really want to help organizations be able to manage cybersecurity to a degree themselves.
Okay. So above antivirus, below an IT team.
Yeah.
What exactly, I know you say it bridges the gap, but how and what does Uncloak do in order to bridge that gap?
Yeah, so one of the things we do within our platform is this piece of software that we install on each computer, whether it be a PC or Mac. And what it does, it scans your network. So it goes out and it scans the network looking for potential vulnerabilities that may exist in your network. So it looks at your, you know, your, from a Wi-Fi devices to your, you know, device that gives you access to the internet, which might be a router, or your network switch where all the network cables come in from everyone who's in the office, through to mobile phone, whatever is connected to the internet in that office. The aim of the platform is to scan it and look for vulnerabilities. So it looks for issues around, you know, if you're using weak passwords for your printer. You know, a lot of times a way that someone gets into a network is through the printers, because most printers may have a default password. And so we check for default passwords and see if we can access that. And then we'll check your website as well. And that's what's different as well. We don't just look at your inside network. We actually scan your website page to see where the issues are, to see if someone can actually deface your website or get access to information that they shouldn't have. So what our system does, it does a full scan to tell you where you are today in terms of what issues you've got in your network, in your business. And it's designed, like I said, it's designed for the smaller businesses. It's not like there's all singing and dancing platforms that are out there, but they cost a lot of money. It's designed for organizations that are like, okay, I need something that's going to be beyond my antivirus and look at the whole network, not just my, PCs and Macs. And also what we do, besides looking at your PCs, your Macs, your workstations, your desktops, your servers, your firewalls, your websites, we also look at the cloud. So we have the ability to connect to your cloud environment. So if there's a client that's using Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud, we can have the ability to scan that environment as well. So the aim is to create with Uncloak a holistic approach, or almost like I say, an executive summary of the security risks that you have in your business. That's what Uncloak is. To cut to the chase, it'll take a long time explaining it. But yeah, it's about to create an executive summary of cybersecurity risks that you may have in your business.
Okay. And that's done at the onboarding phase when someone...
Yeah, absolutely. And then it constantly scans as well. So it doesn't just scan once at the onboarding phase. It does a periodic scan all the time on your machine to tell you exactly what's happened. And if anything's changed from the day before that you had, so you can almost have a metric of, you were here today, you were at 50% today, and today you're at 65% because you fixed some issues, and that's what our system does. And I think what separates our platform from any other cybersecurity tool that is out there, from an antivirus tool or a cybersecurity scanning tool, is that we have a button within our platform, within Uncloak, that allows you to press it to get support from a vetted company, who happens to be us, that can jump on and help to fix that issue for you. So, just think of Uber for cybersecurity engineers. We will help you to fix an issue. So if our system discovers that you've got an issue with your website and you don't have the technical know-how to fix it, you can press a button in the platform and it will contact the support team and we'll be able to fix it for you. And our system will rescan again to make sure that issue is fixed. And then there you go.
Okay. So when your system, when Uncloak is scanning, you mentioned the cloud as well. There's small SME companies store data in the cloud and store data on devices. What access does Uncloak have to the data that a business may have on its servers or in the cloud?
Yeah, so we actually scan at a very high level. So we don't scan for passwords and look at passwords. We don't get that type of information from the platforms we scan. So if you've got a client, for example, that has an Azure, so Microsoft Azure platform, like I said, other platforms are available, and they scan Microsoft Azure, our system will look at a high level and say, this server's got this issue, this device isn't working properly, maybe because of A, B, C, or D. We provide that high level bit. We don't actually pull information that pertains to passwords. We don't actually scan that. And our system, the way it's designed, it's read only. So, we want to make sure that we're not in a position where, we can get in trouble for writing anything to a machine. So we can't make a change on your computer. We can report something, but we don't make the change to it, and that's something very important for us. It allows us to have more of a light touch. So Uncloak, we don't have access to any password credentials at all in the system.
Or any other information in the company for that?
Yeah, reason. No, so yeah, exactly. So we don't have access to read any of your files and folders. We just literally read your system configuration to see how your system's configured. Look at your software levels that you have. So if you have the out-of-date software we'd like to receive, we can report it for you. This is what Uncloak does. So the aim for us is to be very light touch and not too deep into the client's network, but enough to know if there's an issue that needs to be resolved.
Right, understood. Okay. Conferences. Obviously, we've got the World Association of Detectives Centennial event in September in Chicago. Yes. Huge event. It's the first time. Well, W.A.D is the largest and oldest association of its kind in the world. It's a network of over 1,000 investigative agencies in 89 countries around the globe. And it's the first time an association like this has reached 100 years. It's a big talking point in our industry. And I know you've got an exhibition booth there with screens and demos and models. Why?
It's really interesting because, I think one of the things for us at Uncloak is, what's quite amazing, obviously, from working with organizations such as yourself in the, in the private detective industry, is, they usually have very trusted clients that work with them, and they have a unique set of skills. It sounds like something out of a movie. But the thing about the private detectives, what's quite amazing for them is that they have to look at business in a completely different lens compared to a traditional consultant. And I think that's what's really interesting, is that it's this very much this left field understanding of how the business operates, how information is shared within that business. And I think that's what's really interesting compared to, like I mentioned, a typical consultant. And so one of the things that we found with working with private detectives is what is almost, I think there could be definitely an opportunity for them to get access to more digital tools, especially with the way the world is actually operating. So going beyond, people, processes, and resources, is looking at what's happening inside that business from an infrastructure perspective. If a private detective has the ability to speak to their client and say, you know what, you might call me or contact me after something's happened, that's usually too late. It's usually, prevention is better than cure. And so why not have a platform such as Uncloak, which I can refer to you as, and then that way the private detective has the ability to say, okay, look, you might have called me after the issue or breach has happened, but this is something that can help you to prevent breaches, potential breaches in the future moving forward. And that's something where that detective now moves into a proactive stance rather than a reactive stance. And I think that's something very exciting about that synergy there.
Okay, understood. And your typical client, I know you said they're the SME group, but what would it geographically matter which country they're based, or where in the world their servers are located? Is there any other restrictions that you have?
No, not at all. So the way that we work, we have like data domiciliary. So for example, if you have a country where data is not allowed to travel outside, we can set up something within the cloud that allows Uncloak to run only within that country and data not come out of it. So for example, in the UK, we have obviously a platform which serves UK and also parts of the EMEA, which has been fine. And obviously we have all the terms and conditions to cover that. But yeah, absolutely. So the way that we work as a platform, we are, we're completely geographically agnostic. We can serve any part of the world as long as there's an internet connection, and as long as there's ability for us to install the agent on a machine. It really is not a problem for us at all.
And I'm going to ask this because the way the landscape's changed, especially in service-based industries like investigators, with the remote working, work from home, work on the road, does that change the Uncloak product if people are not working in fixed offices anymore and they're remote or they're traveling? How does that?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So with our agent, the piece of software that we install on each machine, which is only privy to the administrator, the person who's actually created the actual account on Uncloak, what we have in the platform is that every single time that agent or that person's computers, if they're going from a public space, workspace, to an office workspace or even to a home, the system actually is able to remember what network you're on. So the way our system works is, even if you've got a laptop device and you have the agent installed, it will say, is this a public workspace or is this your home? So it doesn't do a scan. It only scans, a place it's allowed to scan. And so the way our system is, but yes, it's completely mobile. Once the agent's installed, it will travel your laptop, and the system, as long as it can actually talk back home over the internet, over a secure connection, it's absolutely fine.
So will these laptops, I'm just talking about an investigation team that has guys out in the field, and a number of them connect to public Wi-Fi devices, for example. Will that affect the way Uncloak works?
No, not at all. There'll be a prompt that pops up and says, are you in a public work or home environment? And you say, I'm a public, and then it will know not to scan that network because it knows it's not part of your environment. And it doesn't affect Uncloak at all. So Uncloak's really more concerned in that scenario more with local network than it is with anything else. It's more concerned about the office environment and your home environment rather than public. It doesn't scan that environment.
What can investigators that are attending the W.A.D conference expect to see when they come and meet you, come and speak to you and your team at the exhibition hall? What can they expect to see?
I think one thing is hopefully enthusiasm and professionalism from us. Really, we're really excited to be there, and we're so chuffed to be coming to this amazing, massive event in Chicago. It's absolutely fantastic. So one of the things that that investigators can expect to see when they speak to us is, someone who's going to speak to them in plain English, and someone that hopefully, and I believe that we'll be able to answer every 100% of all the questions that are asked there. So it would be myself, and it'd be another member of staff that'd be on site with both senior management, that will be able to speak to any of the private detectives if they've got a case study or an example or problem statement or anything that they want to address. They can speak to us about it from a cybersecurity perspective. I mean, more than able to have a conversation and say, what's the best solution for them, or what's the best, what can we move forward. But more importantly, I think one of the things we want to do is give an opportunity that we will be giving every private detective an opportunity to sign up there and then and join partner of our partner program, which we believe is extremely attractive, because not only are we providing recurring revenue for any clients that the private detectives bring on, there is an opportunity for an additional revenue stream through the ability for every fix that's made in the system by one of our engineers. There is a commission that's paid back to the private detective. So this is a way for them to make money in their sleep. I know we hear about this all the time and this snake oil stuff, but this is a real opportunity that the existing clients that a organization has, private detective has. This is an opportunity for them to get some additional recurring revenue over and above the work that they may do, which may be a spot piece of work that they do for that client, and get some that recurring revenue space.
Oh, understood. Interesting. What are the cyber risk? It changes all the time. In your career, from where you've come to where you are now, what are the challenges do you see developing in the sort of cyber risk world? We talk about there's state attacks, hacking, real financially backed threats. What are the challenges that you see now, and how would you advise clients or individuals mitigating against those?
Yeah, so definitely, I think top of the chain at the moment, or top of the ladder, is AI-based attacks. And I think this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent in the industry that we live in, especially the world that we live in, because as we're hyper connected, with the advent of AI that's coming, it's allowing people that are not professional hackers, and we call them script kiddies. These are people that are like me, literally, like, not necessarily me, but like any Tom, Dick, or Harry who has access to the internet can go on and write into any of these AI chatbots and say, create me a script or create something for me that will go out and do this to that business. And the AI is not going to stop that from happening. And then they can say, do the same attack 1,000 times.
Wow.
And so this is the world that we're living in, that, you don't have to be experienced in attacking a client anymore. You can actually use AI to do the job that an experienced, hacker could do to try and break into a network. And that's what's extremely frightening. And so this obviously comes along with things like ransomware attacks. So 72% of businesses were hit or attacked by ransomware in 2023, just for example. And so, what you're finding now with the advent of AI and how AI is being used, AI is now writing emails on behalf of hackers to try and break into a network. And it's just becoming a mess. We had this huge issue in the UK in the last few months, in the retail space, retail industry, that were hit, in an extremely bad way, with some of the largest organizations that we know and we shop at, knocking 25% of the value of the business off. And this is coming from, people using AI types of attacks where, you can just take an attack to an nth degree. Something that's very common as well, and that you're going to see an increase of, is automated scanning and credential theft. So usually what happens, as we're so connected to so much different cloud platforms, where you may be using, a document sharing tool, or you may be using a word processing tool online, or an email service online, you have to realize that once you put your password in that platform, that password is probably the same password you use for a myriad of different platforms. So once that platform's been hit, then you'll find, and then someone's got access to those credentials. Those credentials, you might not have changed them for any of those other platforms, and they just go after every other platform under the sun that you may be associated with. And so this is something that's more common. The issue that we've got with the cloud is that it will rain one day. Do you like what I'm done with that? It will rain one day, and what's raining right now is cloud platforms are getting hit extremely hard because you can hit one large target rather than go over after thousands of millions of targets. And so cloud-based attacks are on the absolute increase right now.
You know what? You maybe don't know the answer to this question, but at least you could provide opinion. In AI, scary. So you've got individuals who are leveraging AI, and this is my investigator head thinking, to commit offences, criminal offences, hacking offences, or leveraging, writing code, whatever the case may be. And the AI model is then attacking thousands of individuals, businesses to try and leverage breach data for whatever reason. Where's the liability? Who do the authorities go after? Who does anyone go after if it's the AI model that's been programmed to send the attacks? How does that work?
It's a good point. So it's like when you look at, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, so disclaimer here. But I think, what's important is, like, for example, in the UK, a company or corporation is treated as a separate entity. So you can actually sue your own company, as you know. And I think the legal angle that we have is down to the data processor or the data controller. Who's responsible for putting that query into AI and getting AI to go off and do that? So I think really the way it works is we have this lovely term in cybersecurity called repudiation, which basically means to track the source of where the person responsible for the original action. And so one of the things that will happen, and what we've always done, especially in a PI space, in a private detective space, is trying to find out the source of the attack and where the attack actually came from. And so if someone's created something, that person's going to get responsible. I don't think anyone's going to be able to be in a situation where they can turn around and say that the AI done it itself. Someone had to put that initial query into the AI and ask it to go off and do it. So it will come back to that original person. So I think there will be some laws that will be come out very, very quickly to say how you program the AI is extremely important for you to know that you're taking responsibility for it. And we do have some AI ethics. Whether or not they're being bound to is another story, but there are, there's well-established AI ethics out there.
So if you ask AI to do something that's clearly illegal, would it do it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, there's no moral compass in AI unless the person has put some restrictions and guidelines in the platform itself. So, for example, in some of those common ones we have, there are checks and balances that are in place. But if you have taken a piece of AI and you're running a model offline in your own environment, there's nothing that can stop the AI from you telling it what not to do.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's really whether or not the AI system, that model that's being used, if it's in an online space where it can be locked down to a degree, and people are still trying to gamify or game that platform by trying to get it to do something that it's not meant to be doing. But the more dangerous attacks are coming from people that are taking AI models that are freely available online and bringing them in-house, working on them, and then releasing them into the world.
Crazy, fascinating. Really scary stuff. Could you use? I mean, how does Uncloak tackle AI-based threats? Is there a solution there?
Yeah, no. So we have to fight fire with fire. So we use AI ourselves to try and deal with the thousands and thousands of attacks that are coming down the line. We scan the public web and the dark web, looking for where there's new sources of attacks that are coming, and then we notify our clients within Uncloak to say, we know you're running Windows 10 and you've got this on Windows Server. Well, funny enough, there's people speaking about this version of Windows that you have. You need to look into this. So this is how we work. The best way for us is to go out into private web, looking at where the attacks are coming from, what machines they're attacking, what type of assets, what type of software, and then be able to communicate back to our clients. What we are not in Uncloak, we are not like I mentioned, we're not an anti-malware, antivirus system. So we don't spot a virus coming in. That's not what we do. What we do with Uncloak is try and say, look, if a virus was to come in and you wasn't protected, even though we warned you about protection, like a weak password, antivirus up to date, software up to date, you would be less likely to get hit. That's what we do. So we're hopefully trying to be that weatherman that tells you about the weather coming 3 days down the line, so you can prepare for it. That's how Uncloak is compared to anything else in the industry.
Like an alert system, something like that?
Yeah, so another thing as well, just coming from a business perspective, one thing always, common thing I always say is too much information, no information. You're getting bombarded from every mobile platform and, tons of emails coming through. We only alert you when there's something critical that you need to address and attend to. So we have a notification system within our platform to say only alert that member of staff if there is that's something they need to attend to, rather than just being bombarded with alerts, which then that creates apathy and then you don't end up addressing anything. We only alert you when something has to happen and has to be dealt with.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tao. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today and understanding the world of Uncloak and cyber risk that's out there that we're living day in, day out. If you are attending the World Association of Detectives Conference at the Drake Hotel in Chicago in September, pop by, meet Tao and his team, understand a bit about Uncloak, go through the live demonstration. I'm sure you'll be as fascinated as I am. Thank you, Tao. The details are coming up on the screen now for everyone that's watching, and have a good day.